Hi everyone, I'm Ken. I'm a software engineer from Naris, and today I want to talk about debugging. Let me begin with this idea. Before we debug code, we need to debug how we think about bugs. Some of you here might have experienced this. You already fixed a bug, and later the same bug came back. Or your fix caused a regression. Or you start debugging, and later you get stuck. You fall in a rabbit hole. Maybe the problem is not the bug itself. Maybe the problem is the mindset on how we debug. Let me tell you that many developers do not get stuck because they lack tools. They get stuck because they start with the wrong mindset. And with the wrong mindset, even you have the best debugging tools, you use AI, they won't help much. First, let's understand how a lot of debuggers debug. It starts when something is broken. Maybe the page is very slow, or the data is multiplying, or it's not saving. What is the first instinct? Let me change this line. Let me start a fix. Hit refresh, and it's still broken. How about I had breakpoints or logs, and I'll try another fix. Hit refresh again, and eventually something might work. I call this reaction-based debugging. You react on what you think the problem might be. You start the code, you, you start the fix, you wait for the code and see how it reacts, and based on that, you decide what to do next. Yes, it feels busy, it feels productive, but most of the time, you are just guessing. And in programming, guessing does not scale. We need to be more methodical. So, what is this thing that we need to improve on? We need to improve our mental model. First, let's understand what a mental model is. A mental model is the process where you take in information and use it to make decisions. You gather information, you collect it, you make sense of it, and based on that, you decide what to do next. And it's also true in debugging. When the bug is found, you gather information, you look at what's broken, you look at the code, and based on that, you decide what to do next. And in debugging, mental model helps you process all those information you have collected and make the right decisions. So how do you make the right decisions? First, let's fix the mindset. Let's understand how a good debugger thinks. First, good debuggers do not fight bugs. They investigate. They do not randomly change the code. They do not randomly add breakpoints or logs and hoping something might work. Second, good debuggers do not start with the question, how do I fix it? Rather, they ask, why does this bug exist? And those two are very different questions. When you ask, how do I fix it? You jump straight into solutions. But when you ask, why does this bug exist? Now, you start tracing back, chase, checking the documentation or history. You reflect on what might cause it. You understand why this unexpected behavior happening in the first place. And that one question changes everything. Now, you are no longer just reacting, you are investigating. And that is the right mindset. And let's move on to the right mental model. I'm gonna walk through this step by step because this is the core of my talk. It begins when the bug is found. This is where you notice that something is broken, or a user reported the bug, or your client's product owner reported an urgent bug, and you need to fix it ASAP. What do you do? You do not panic. You do not jump straight into solutions. Remember, the first question we should ask is, why does this bug exist? So let's start with what we know. That brings us to facts. Facts are things that you can prove, not guesses, not assumptions. This is where I ask, what do I actually know for sure about the bug? For example, you know the page is rendering. This form submits the request, and this controller action is run, and this service was called, and it's returning the object. These are facts. And this is where a lot of developers go wrong because they guess too early. Instead of guessing, you need to pause and ask, what do I actually know? After the facts, let's look at the assumptions. This is where I ask, what am I assuming about this code? For example, I am assuming that this function returns number, or the param exists. And let me tell you, a lot of bugs happen when you assume something that was not actually true. After the assumptions, let's form the hypothesis. This is where I ask, what if my assumptions are wrong? If my assumptions are wrong, then this bug starts to make sense. Yeah. And this is where I ask, yeah, if my assumptions are wrong, then this bug starts to make sense. After the hypothesis, we need to verify it. This is where I ask, or you need to verify. This is where you need those debugging tools. And these tools does not replace your thinking. They help you verify the hypothesis. If the hypothesis is wrong, then you go back and do verify the next assumptions. If it's right, then you finally have proof. And if you have proof, you can explain why does this bug exist. And if you can explain it, I know you can fix it. And that is the right mental model. Now, let's try to apply this mental model in real world examples. I'm going to live demo, and I will imagine myself as if I'm a new developer. Hold on. Right. So bug number one, this is what the user reported. So, hi, when I filtered the inventory to groceries, something goes wrong and I don't see the result. So here is my email, john.dualsam.com. So what are the facts here? So he goes to inventory page, filtering groceries, and he don't see the result. and his user is Janet Doe. So let's try to debug this and use the mental model. First, let's replicate the bug. I replicated the production database, for example, here. And of course, the password, we need to change it. Right. Now we can now impersonate the user. So let's change the password here, password, and the sign in. There. Now, you know for the fact that he's in the inventory stage and he is filtering groceries. And he said when he filters, something goes wrong here. So there's an error page. You need to, you are happy if there's an error because sometimes bugs do not error. So that's the most dangerous bug. See this, it's now easy to debug. Let's check the facts. So the error, zero division error happens in the inventory's controller. So we know that it's inventories and we know this in the line 30. So let's try to debug it. Now let's understand how this controller works. So it needs authentication to user. It calls this category filter before the action and it's just passed the params category name. And in the index, it just fetching the inventories here and just using the scope to user. And if the category is passed in the front end, it just filters with the category. If not, then just shows all records. So we know that, and it's passing inventory scope in this line. And you know, let's check the front end. Right. So this global inventories variable is passed in this front end, and it just looping the inventories and just showing the results. So that's the fact. Then in line 8, this is where it's calculating the average stock per item. So it's using this method, and you can see here, it's just summing all the stocks and counting all the records. And it's just dividing total stock divided by vendor count. So what am I assuming about this code? I am assuming that when the total stock is divided to inventory count, even if the inventory count is zero, Rails would handle it and just return zero. That's what an assumption is a new development. So this is my assumption. Now let's uh try here. Let's use that's our hypothesis and let's try to debug this. Let's try adding breakpoints. I'll attach to the Rails. And so see here, right, this line 31. let's check the inventory count here. Okay. Uh, here, third, right, count, it's 0. So let's try this code here. Oh, you see now the error. Now that you have proof that's erroring, you know what to fix it, how to fix it. So if you can explain why this is erroring, as a new dev, I can just add guard here. If it's 0, then we just need to return 0. So let's try that. Now let's put the try here. Try again. Now so that's return 0. There's no error. So you have fixed it already here. And after the fix, you need to create a test. So I have created the test beforehand, and let's check it out. I have created an integration test here. It's just a very simple test where the test is creating the user, and it's creating inventories for the category electronics, and it signs in the user here and goes to the controller and passing this around electronics. And of course, there's no error because there are inventories. But when you pass the groceries category, it should need to be a certain success, whereas before it's error. So this is a very simple test that you can do. So now that we fix the bug number 1, let's go to the bug number 2. Bug number 2. So user reported, hi, I'm checking the sales report for May 20. It looks like one sale is missing. I sold 3 items that day, but the report only shows 2. When I filter by May 20, so it's the same user, John Doe. So what the pops here? So it's in the sales page, filtering for May 20 day, and expecting 3 sales, but it's showing 2. So let's try to debug it. So I'm in the sales page, filter by 20 here, May 20, filter. Oh yeah, it's 2 sales. Now that we know there's no error, just showing 2 sales, let's check the box. Let's go to the dev tools. Hit filter again here. You see in the network request, it's submitting this request. And you see the payload, yeah, the date is correct. So it's May 20, password May 20. And as you can see here, you know that in race convention, the first path is the controller name. So you know it's a sales controller name. So we can go to the sales controller. Check the box there. Let's understand this controller. So it has authentication to user, setting the filter date only for index, and running before the action. Let's see the set to the date here. It's just passing the date around and it's falling back to the date. So we know that. And it's fetching the sales in this index compare option. So let's see fetch this. So let's see the facts here. So it's just parsing the date string passed by the content. So I'm assuming this should be May 20. So this May 20. And as you can see, it's just spoke to the user, fetching the sales and it's filtering by date. So as a new developer, what I am assuming about this, I am assuming that this date function of Postgres, when passed, when the sale date is May 20, it should be just May 20. So let me just add comment here. It's my hypothesis. So I'm assuming if the date created at here is just always May 20 when converted, and the date param is May 20 here, so they should be seeing the sales. So let's try to debug this and verify this hypothesis, adding a breakpoint. Let's try to replicate it again. Hit filter. So yeah, as you can see here, I'm on line 27. And let's try to debug this. So let's first check if the param is correct. That's correct. It's May 20. And let's see all the points here. There. So there's three sales, and all dates are May 20, as you can see here. And this May 20 is midnight of May 20. There's a 11:15, and there's evening time sale. So let's try our assumption. So if this date created at should be just May 20. So let's try and check if that is true. I'll try that. So it should be showing all of May 20 if my assumption is right. Aha, so there you go. It says May 19 and there's two May 20. So that's so this date function of both again is not ex- it's not assumed that this is the same time zone that we passed on here. So if it's not the same time zone, then what we need to do, now you know we can explain the well, this is where you use your thinking that we need to have the same time zone. So let's try the fix here, which is what I think the fix is we need to use date range, not just date comparison. So in Rails, you can just do um, date all day. So what it does, it just pass two dates, the May 20 midnight up to 11:59 p.m. So let's see how this turns out in SQL. So let's try this and to SQL. Now you can see that selecting sales and spoke to user and the created path is between now May 19. This is UTC. Since in Philippine time, it's UTC plus 8, it's just minus 8 the date. And it's the end date is 1559. Now let's try this and let's filter now the May 20 here. Let's still try. Move that the same thing. There. So now you can see all the sales here. Then we finally fixed that. I beforehand I added a test to replicate this. And let's see that. Okay. I added integration test. This is a very simple test. Just creating user, creating one sale here, which is midnight, and two sales is normal days. You just sign in the user, and it goes with uh, running the request, and it should be asserting success, and it's just asserting the count should be 3. And and that's it. So we already fixed the bug. So let's recap what we learned. So now that we have fixed the mindset, we just do not randomly change things. First, we need to investigate, and we know the right mental model when we debug. We just when the bug is found, we check the facts first. We create assumptions and hypotheses, and we just need to verify. And I hope you learned something useful today. And thank you.